Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. I'm PJ.
And I'm Mike.
We have this is a sequel.
Yes.
Our last episode that we recorded was us talking about 3 sequels that came out. This episode is a sequel to a podcast that we did that came out a couple weeks ago where we did the top 5 worst Marvel and DC films. This is the top 5 best Marvel and DC films.
Yep, the best of the best.
It was harder to make the best list than it was to make the worst list.
And these are the live action films.
Live action. We left off the
So-
animated series. If we would have put some animated movies on there, that would have made this list way easier to make.
Exactly. Oh,
But
man.
some of these live action films that they did.
Whew.
I remember liking movies.
Yes.
And then you starting to go back and like, which was the best? I'm like, oh man, none of these were the best.
Yeah.
But with that said, we'll start with the top 5 best Marvel films.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first.
All
I'll
right.
go first. So I think this applies for both me and PJ real quick. All the films that we're discussing is that films we actually saw.
Correct.
So if I haven't seen one, that's how it
Right.
is. So these are our objective and subjective opinions that we think are the best. So these are the Marvel, and PJ, I think you're going to be shocked at my number 5 because I think objectively these probably aren't really the best pound for pound, and I just kind of grouped them in. Or actually the X-Men films. Like, not all of them, but like some of them. And the ones that I chose in particular are, believe it or not, the original X-Men that came out in 2000.
Okay.
X2.
Yeah.
Days of Future Past and Logan. And look, I know the movies, the X-Men movies themselves are messy, but I feel like those 4 movies in particular have the right. And I actually like X-Men 3, but I didn't put that on here. I'm saying the best of the best because I know that one's actually, it is weak. But in terms of the best, I chose these in particular because I think they're all fun to watch.
Yep.
I enjoy all the characters in those films. You know, you could say you might like this person's portrayal, but it's still fun to watch. You know,
I agree.
You might not like Storm, okay?
Yeah.
But Halle Berry, I find it's still something about it. Something is still bearable. Not because she's very good looking or anything. I just something about it just still works. I can't really put my finger out. I think it's one of those things where you just catch lightning in a bottle, and I think it's the whole movie itself just
the
works.
First 2, I mean, you could rewatch them.
Yeah.
I recently did rewatch them, and there are parts that are cringe, but
Yes.
they're not bad. There's a nostalgia to them that makes you still kind of like them.
Yeah.
So I get that pick.
Yeah, and like I said, I know they're not perfect. I think something about them that's going to be reoccurring. I think, especially with the Marvel films, like with the cinematic universe, because these aren't really maybe now they're considered cinematic universe. I don't know, different dimensions, what the hell it is, but I feel like I can rewatch these films. I don't have I enjoyed the cinematic universe getting to the final end game.
Yeah.
That was great. That was a fun ride, but for some reason, the majority of those films, there's 20 of them, let's say.
1,000.
Right.
Yeah,
Let's say there's
500,000.
20 just to make life easy. I'll be fair. I'll be generous. Maybe 6 of them I would truly want to revisit over and over.
There's only
the
a
rest
few.
of the 14 I would never. And I don't think they're bad films.
But you don't need to see them again. You don't. Need to
they're
see
very
them again.
forgettable. For these X-Men films, I can rewatch. I can really I try to say. I guess part of it is nostalgia. I got to say that, but something else about I can't put my finger on. There's something re-enjoyable about it. I can't put my finger on it, but I put it in there as one of the best.
I think you'll be shocked with my number 5. But it took a lot. I was going through, and I was gonna put the X-Men, and I'm like, but are they really the best?
Right.
And then I don't know that this one is either. The Punisher with Thomas Jane.
Wow. Okay.
I don't hate that movie.
Yeah.
They took some liberties with the origin and stuff, but I think there was some action, the guns and all that.
Yep.
The scene with I don't remember the guy's name. He sings that song to him when they were in the diner or whatever.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
He's like he sings that song about how he's gonna die.
Yep.
I thought that was good. I thought the way they made the skull look, I thought that was very cool.
Yep.
Because prior to that movie, it was always the same kind of skull, but this had like that paint drip, blood drip look to it. I thought he looked very cool as the Punisher. It wasn't the best movie.
Exactly. Pound for pound, it's not really the best, but I know what you mean. It has like a charm to it. I can't
does.
put my finger
Kevin
on
Nash is in it.
Yeah.
He shows up. And that's the one I think with what's his face is the real villain is
Was it John Travolta?
John Travolta. Yeah, I
Yep.
couldn't think of his name. Yeah, John Travolta was in it. It's got a decent cast. He looks like the Punisher.
Yeah.
Is it the best movie of all time? No. Do I need to watch it over and over and over again? Also, no. But I think it holds up.
Yeah.
And I like it, so I made that my number 5.
Yeah. I agree. Now, PJ, this one is a little controversial because you actually had this on your worst Marvel films. So, I only saw the first one. So, this is 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why I said it's one of the best is because I think the reason why, correct me if I'm wrong, PJ, both of us feel the same way. We got turned off because they kind of took this model and they applied it to everything in terms of comedy and tone. But isolated in itself, the Guardians were this. Look, I'll be real. I didn't even heard of the. I'm trying to think of my memory. I think I've heard of Guardians of the Galaxy when I was a kid.
Right.
But I didn't remember until this movie came out. But I got to say, this movie is funny. It has a lot of charm. I think it's very rewatchable. I remember just really, I knew this movie was going to be special, from the opening credits, that opening scene where he's getting sucked up into the spaceship and all this other shit. But that movie's really firing off. I gotta give it credit. It's really great. I understand. I mean, Hollywood is just a bunch of copycats. They see something that's hot, and they're going to just copy the shit out of it. So, doesn't mean it's going to be good. But I love just the chemistry between Zoe Saldana and
I think
Chris
Batiste is
Pratt.
great.
Yes, he was great. Rocket's hilarious.
Yep.
I love those. One of my favorite lines of all time. It's like, what do you want to say to the universe? He's like, I'm one of the idiots that lives in it. They're just really great lines, and it has a special. It's at the time it was totally different from all the other Marvel films.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the aftermath was huge. Let's
Now
keep
all the
doing that.
movies are the
Yeah,
same.
unfortunately, but when it just came out, it was really special. And I should have taken notes, but 2014 was a banging year for comic book movie because it was I think Future Past came out. Days of Future Past. It was a bunch of good movies that had superheroes that
Right.
movie. I was like, damn, man, everyone was rolling in dough that year. Shit. But going back to Guardians, I think I think it's the only thing that kind of lacks is the villain, the guy he has to fight. But
Yeah.
at least he was still a jerk.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name. But and one of the things I feel like they kind of, which I'm set about still, is I feel like Groot has never been the same. That original Groot is my favorite. He's
once he became Baby Groot, it was cute, but it didn't.
Yeah,
and then teenage Groot,
and then I haven't even seen the third one.
Yeah.
But the original Groot in this was my favorite. He was badass, kind of mean, nice, playing the muscle. But yeah, I think the Guardians 1 is really fantastic. It's a really special movie. Unfortunately, like I said, the aftermath.
The
Not so
aftermath,
much.
yeah. I mean, I get where you're coming from, though. It's not one of my favorites because I didn't like the. If that wasn't connected to the rest of the Marvel universe,
I think it
would have
worked.
been better.
Yeah.
But I just felt it was too jokey and sing-songy and all this other stuff for a movie that's really a linchpin in the entire saga of Thanos.
Yeah.
That's where you really start seeing Thanos.
Yeah.
And I thought they got the tone all wrong. If you isolate it from that, I agree with you.
I agree with you too
That's
as well.
That's why I had it on. I always have it on my worst list. Not because the movie itself is bad.
Right.
I just don't think it fit.
The impact and yes, I agree.
But the movie itself, standalone, is enjoyable for sure. My number 4. Some people would argue it might be too low on this list,
Oh,
but I thought there were some that I liked more. Spider-Man 2.
with Tobey
Maguire.
Yes, okay.
Yeah,
I am not surprised. Yes.
Yeah, I
okay.
like that movie. I don't love Tobey as Spider-Man. It's one of those things. There's some give and take.
Yeah,
with this list. I think Doc Ock makes that movie.
Oh yeah.
He was great. The power of the sun in the palm of my hand. That whole thing, right? He was a great villain where you felt bad for him for the things that were happening, but you also were rooting against him because he was so evil. I think that's the best movie where Tobey was Spider-Man in it. I
agree with that.
The best. That's the best version of his Spider-Man and Peter Parker.
Yep.
It had a lot going for it. I think the second one's the one where he stops the train, right?
Yep.
And that's a great scene. But the problem with that scene, though, is always, look at him. He's just a kid.
Yeah,
he's 60 years old
Yeah.
at this point, Tobey Maguire. He's just a boy. No, he's not. But don't worry, Spider-Man, we won't tell them who you are. Like, as if you knew who this random 40-year-old guy is that you're calling a child. I always thought that was kind of funny. But overall, I think out of those first 3 Spider-Man movies, that's definitely the best one.
Yep.
The suit looks great. I mean,
yes.
It looks
yeah.
fantastic. And like I said, the villain makes these movies. In any superhero movie, we've said it in other episodes.
Yeah.
The villain makes the movie. And Alfred Molina as Doc Ock made that movie. And without him, it could be on the worst list. But with him, I can rewatch that movie. Yeah. Very few movies do I want to rewatch. When that one I can. I feel like watching Spider-Man. That might be the one I pick.
Yeah, great choice. For my number 3, PJ, this is Avengers: Infinity War.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, that's on my number 3.
Okay.
And I wrote this came out in 2018. And the reason why I put this on there is, all I can say is, like I said earlier, rewatching the cinematic universe. I mean, if you're a young kid, it's going to be fun to watch. Yep. But if you're going to watch it with your young kid, you're going to say, this was... All these films are good. It's hard to rewatch them over and over and over. It's really hard. But this one, though, if you didn't see all the other ones, like when I saw this, I didn't see all the other ones at the time. But wow. I mean, this movie had a tone where, like, I think as soon as the beginning, I think he kills Loki or something like that, and I think he beats the crap out of, I think the Hulk or something like that. You're like, wow. Within the first 5 minutes. And I just love the tone, and I feel like you finally see Thanos just really, like, they've been building this guy up, and they delivered, man. They did not let you down. And I can truly, PJ, I want to see if you agree with this. I think Thanos, because of that film in particular, he's now on the Mount Rushmore of villains, like bad villains that everyone loves, like Darth Vader, the Joker, any iteration of the Joker, T-1000, Predator.
That movie really built that character
He's
up.
One of the baddies now. Yeah. He's really great. And I think it took balls. I mean, this is some spoilers. And when he was killing people, man, I was loving it. I was like, oh yeah, when he killed Zoe Saldana's character, I was shocked. That was great.
The only problem, I like that movie too. It's not on my list, but I do like it.
Right.
And I also like Endgame. But the problem that I have with the movies is they don't do anything to tell you Thanos is wrong in what he's doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, his point is, I can't double the resources, because he's like, I'm killing half the people because you're just wasting resources. Everyone's going to die. You people don't know how to live within your means. It's really a statement on society if you think about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what makes his character interesting.
Yeah, but he's right is the problem. He's not wrong. And so when I watch that movie, I'm like, well, maybe he should just snap away half the people.
Right. And, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they were inspired by Watchmen, because it's almost the same premise. Because I think, was it Ozymandias? Yeah. Releases whatever the squid or fuck it is. And I think I know in the movie he says, yes, I'm killing billions. Wait, I'm killing millions
to save billions.
Yeah. And it's obviously morals and ethics. So it makes a moral dilemma here. But
I think Thanos was right.
So PJ thinks Thanos was right.
Team Thanos.
And you kind of just reminded me. What I also love about this movie too, I think it's really more of a cultural thing that made it really fun, because I think the Russo brothers had that thing on Twitter, was like, Thanos orders you not to do any spoilers, and everyone kind of honestly adhered to it, because obviously at the end everyone starts getting turned to dust. Everyone's getting smoked, but I think this movie's really, really good. It's great. I remember leaving at the end. They just show like the credits. They don't even play like music. It's just like droning, like sad, like depressing. You're like, oh fuck.
I'll tell you what did it for me in that movie. Tom Holland's fine. I haven't seen him in a million different things. But the scene where he turns to dust and he's like, I don't want to leave, Mr. Stark. I don't want to leave.
Yeah. I think he says, I don't feel so good.
I don't feel so good. Yeah.
Wow.
That whole thing. He did a really great job in that.
Yeah.
I thought that was, out of all the movies he's been in as Spider-Man, that was probably his best moment.
Yeah. But I think Infinity War is, and I love Endgame too. I didn't make it to it's my honorable mentions, because I felt like I really needed to give it to, and I actually put it as number 3 too, as Endgame, because Endgame, they should have really ended the series at Endgame, but that's for another episode.
There are scenes in Endgame that are straight up perfect. And then there are scenes in Endgame where you're like, is this movie still going on?
Yeah. But I actually think Endgame was a shorter film than this one. But yeah,
Every-
Endgame is really great too. That one
Yeah.
you could put this. You could put. I should put both. I'll say both.
They
side
really
by
are
side.
part 1 and part 2 of the same movie.
Yeah.
In Endgame, I just love the stuff where Tony Stark is back in time interacting with his father.
Yep.
I think I think that piece of Endgame is the best thing Marvel's done from when they started till now.
Yeah.
That piece with Tony
Right.
Stark interacting with his father is great.
Yeah, and Endgame really should have ended with Endgame, and it was
Yeah.
really a great way to
Yeah. No, I agree.
end it all together. It was really a great finish.
So does that make us? Where are we at?
I think you're on 3.
Three?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think number 3 on this list is going to be a shock.
Uh-oh.
Not a bad shock.
Right.
I just don't think you would have expected me to pick this. The first Doctor Strange.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know what it is about that movie.
I know. Yep.
But there's just something about it that I like. The Matrixy. It's like very Matrixy.
I think know what it is, PJ. I think it's because it's more. There's a part of that's very science fiction, even though it's obviously mystical
Yeah.
and fantasical, whatever you want to call it. There is a science fiction component. I know what you mean. I always say the ending reminds me of Star Trek
Yeah, it's very Star
or
Trek.
Twilight Zone-ish.
The way reality warps is very Matrixy. He's great in it. It's a great. Doctor Strange has never been one of my favorite superheroes,
Yeah.
but it is a great origin. How he's like he's the best surgeon in the world, and he gets into the accident, he can't use his hands anymore. So now he can't be the best doctor in the world, but he becomes Doctor Strange, the best sorcerer. Like the whole origin, I think, is great for that character. They do it really well. I like that. I don't know what they called it. It was like the Mirror World or whatever that they were in. That looked great. But I love the end of that movie. With Dormammu, I forget what the line is. Dormammu, I'm here to fight you. Whatever he says, and he just keeps rewinding it.
That's
and
why I
going
said
back.
it's very science. That's very like Star Trek,
I
very
think
Twilight
that's
Zone.
Great, I love that. It's just a good movie. It felt different than the other Marvel movies. It wasn't as goofy as the other Marvel movies. It wasn't. It didn't have the Guardians of the Galaxy effect really in it that much.
Yes.
Benedict Cumberbatch, like I said, great actor. That whole movie came together in a way that
I agree.
I think was surprising. I didn't expect to like it as much as I do.
I think what they couldn't eliminate is the love interest.
Yeah.
What's her name? You didn't need that at all.
didn't.
Because he was a vain dude.
Yeah.
You could have just made him like learn to like.
Yeah, I get that
Be
they wanted
kind
to
to
ground him and all. But,
Yeah.
but you didn't need it. You're right. And it's so funny that this is on my best list because the second one I think was what we determined was the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the first one I have on my best list. I love that movie.
Oh yeah. We're gonna get into that to the
Yeah.
next group. But yeah, I totally agree, PJ. That's a great film. It is very good. Good choice. For number 2, I think you might have this one in one of your maybe not. I just put the original Iron Man.
Okay, I have that as my number 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't really have much to say about it because it's a really great film.
I think
It set the tone.
it's
I don't suspect. The only thing that's
great. It's a great movie.
The only negative I have of this film is the villain. That's the only thing that sucks. I wish he really had a more memorable because I like
Obadiah Stane. Yeah.
I wish he was something about him was like. What's the word? Like long lasting. I wish like he's forgettable. That's the problem. He really needed someone like a Joker, like a Batman '89, where like he gets killed at the end. He really needed someone to be like where his whole thing. He's like, hey, I beat that guy. Okay, like he should always say like everything was
What's the line he has in that movie? Tony Stark built this in a cave.
Yeah.
That whole thing. It's like he's not the most impactful villain.
Right.
I agree with that. But also when you think about Iron Man in the comics,
Yeah.
I mean the Mandarin. I don't think
Yeah,
we're going to
yeah.
be talking about much about him today. But the Mandarin was always his main villain. And I get you couldn't start with that.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't have worked. They just. It just that piece falls flat because you don't get the battle you really want.
Yeah.
I think the ending of that movie, when he's given that speech, and he's like, the truth is, and then he stops and he rethinks what he's going to say, and he goes, the truth is, I am Iron Man. It's what's so great about that, and this goes back to the point you made about how Endgame should have ended it.
Yeah.
The line, I am Iron Man,
right,
starts everything.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it should have ended with Endgame. That should have ended the whole universe. But he does it again.
Yeah.
And I forget what Thanos says, and he goes, no, I am Iron Man. And he does the snap.
Right.
Would have been the perfect way to just bookend everything, done, end the universe, start over from scratch. I think you're 100% right when you said Endgame should have ended it.
Yeah.
Iron Man, I have that as my number one. It is one of, if not the best superhero movies of all time.
Yes.
in
No.
my
Totally
opinion.
agree. Totally agree. Great film. PJ, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is possible it might be on your list. It is a very popular movie. I put Winter Soldier.
Oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
in my honorable mentions, but
Okay.
yeah, it's a great movie.
I just think of all the Marvel movies, this one had the best tone. It was a little bit darker, had that grittiness to it. A lot of, espionage is very cool.
Exactly.
Um,
It felt different, like kind of you said with Doctor Strange. It
Yeah,
felt
it
different.
didn't feel
needed that.
Yeah,
Oh,
it wasn't
needed
like a cookie cutter sort of
Yeah.
thing. It was really before all the Marvel movies had to have the same exact format.
They all turned into Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, it was before that, so it felt different than when it come
Yeah.
before. It even felt different from the first Captain America movie, which I like also. The
I like
first
that
Avenger.
one.
Yeah, people shit on it. I don't know why, but I thought Winter Soldier, the way it introduces the Bucky as the Winter Soldier, was great. I think that's the one that also gives us Sam, right? Sam Wilson,
I believe so. Yeah.
and on your left, and he runs past him, and
Yeah.
that became another big thing in Endgame.
Yeah.
When he makes his big return at the end, and he's on your left, and he looks in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like there's the stuff that happened in those early Marvel movies really came back in a big way in those last two.
Yeah.
And without Winter Soldier, without Iron Man, even without Doctor Strange, that first
Right.
movie to show you how that time stone really works,
Right.
the Endgame doesn't work. And you can't say that about every Marvel movie. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, honestly, Black Panther, fine. But
Yeah.
nothing in that movie matters in Endgame. There's a lot of movies in that universe that don't matter. Even the Thor movies.
Yeah.
It doesn't
yeah,
really
yeah.
give it. Who gives a shit? It doesn't impact. It doesn't impact those last, Infinity
Right.
War and Endgame that much the way Iron Man, Winter Soldier really did.
Yeah. Yeah. Great choice. And for my number 1, PJ, is actually the first Spider-Man.
Okay.
With Tobey
All
Maguire.
right, I can see that.
I picked that because it's directed by Sam Raimi. It's the guy who
Yeah.
did Evil Dead, all that stuff. I just think maybe because it's like Stan Lee's like child, Spider-Man. But I remember I saw this in theaters actually twice. I remember the first time I saw it, the first day in the theater, I was just like, wow. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think it's actually hard to pull that off during that because X-Men came out 2 years prior.
Yep.
And like. The special effects in the movie are okay. I like when they have the guns, in the
Yeah.
first X-Men, it's Magneto and the guns flip
Yeah.
around and all that. Some of the effects, but that's okay. They didn't have a lot of big budget
Yeah.
at that point. But anyway, this one though, I think the special effects still hold up.
Yeah,
But I
definitely.
just love like the tone. Like I like Tobey Maguire a lot as Spider-Man and as Peter Parker. I know he looks way older, and sometimes
Yeah.
I don't really get hell bent on that. If they don't look as a teenager, because I don't really like who's the guy who plays Spider-Man now? What's his name?
Tom
again?
Holland?
Yeah, he's a nice guy. I don't really like. I don't know if he's a little
Yeah.
bit too kiddish. Like, oh, Mr. Sparkle, it's a little bit too kiddish for me.
I think Andrew Garfield was the best. They just gave him the worst movies.
No, I can agree with that.
If
I
they
can
would
agree
have
with
had
that.
Andrew Garfield at the right age in the Marvel universe, he'd have been the best one.
Yeah.
He just got stuck with a shitty script.
Yep. But Spider-Man 1 though, I just felt this movie just to this day still holds up. It's fun to watch. I like everything I like Tobey Maguire. I like Kirsten Dunst in it. Hey, Willem Dafoe as
He was
I
great.
mean, my God. I just remember
I just wish they didn't give him that stupid Power Ranger helmet mask.
Right. Well, you heard that they actually had a mask, and they said
Yeah.
it was too. They're like, "Yo, we cannot." I think you can find online.
Yeah.
But the original mask is like fucking scary. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's super cool. And they were like, they got like, "Look, we can't. This is too. Wait, it's like a horror film."
Yeah.
So, but I don't really mind the mask. I don't really care. Actually, my favorite scene in the original Spider-Man is when they're on the rooftop and he has him bound. He has
Yeah.
Spider-Man like on the rooftop,
Yeah.
like tied up, and he wants to join teams with them. And he goes like Spider-Man, I'm gonna squash you like a bug. And then he says something like that. But he actually says like he almost like breaks like character. He goes like
Right.
he's like, and we should work together. That whole scene is just really great. Like I don't know. It's just it's so good. But and I love the ending where he like tries to like trick him,
Yep.
like he wants to save then he the glider kills him.
Yep.
He's like, "Don't tell Harry." Oh, So good. But yeah, I love this movie. I love the first two Spider-Man. I was always so heartbroken with Spider-Man 3. Heartbroken.
Yeah.
Heartbroken.
There are parts of that movie that I don't hate.
Yeah, the Sandman scenes are fantastic, especially when
Yeah.
he turns into Sandman.
Yeah.
That is special.
But then there are parts of that movie and he's dancing
yeah,
down
that
the
was
street. and you're
really
like,
when I left the theater, I was fucking
Yeah.
crushed. I'm like, that movie sucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, Spider-Man 1 owns.
I can see that. I can see that as a number one.
And I know you said Iron Man's your number one. Anything else
Iron Man
to
was
add?
fine. No, I think we kind of said all of that. I love that movie. I think for me, it's one of, if not the best superhero movies of all time. For me, that's a real 1-2 situation with the number one list I have for DC.
Yeah, and I just on a quick honorable mentions. I think these are really excellent films. The first Deadpool, Blade.
I do like those Blade movies. Yeah.
I put Captain America, like you said, the
Yep.
movie gets unnecessary hate, and I said the original Ant-Man. I like the first Ant-Man.
Yeah,
a lot.
I don't dislike
know
the
why,
first
people
Ant-Man
pick
either.
on it.
And then we have to pick the top 5 DC films.
Now this was actually kind of hard.
It's not easy. Well, for me, 2 of them were very easy.
Yes, I know. Yep.
And then 3 of them, it took a minute.
Yep.
However, I think my number 5 is a good choice, an inspired pick. My number 5, I actually picked Constantine
Oh, okay.
with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, nothing like the character in the comics, who was a blonde, he's not blind, a blonde
Right.
Englishman. Right, that's his character in the comics, not a
Yeah.
dark long-haired Christopher
Yeah.
Reeve, but Keanu Reeves.
Mhm.
But I think that movie is great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of horror elements that really work well. He's great in it. The villains are great. The way they portray like the devil and all that is great.
Yeah.
When he walks between the two worlds or whatever, and he has to hold the cat, I think that's pretty
Yep.
fun. Shia LaBeouf isn't completely hateable.
Yep.
which
Yeah.
is the best you
Wow.
can- it's the best you
Forgot
can
he
hope
was
for
even
him.
in that.
Yeah, he plays the I guess a sidekick or whatever.
I
you
saw
wanna
it
call
once, bro.
him. I actually can. That is a movie.
I can't remember it really.
This is a movie that I will actually watch regularly. I can rewatch it. There was a rumor that they were going to do another one. Of these,
Yeah.
And I hope it does happen because I think it's way better than people remember it being. And I like the. This was like his first big thing, I think, after The Matrix, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I don't know that he had a big franchise hit or a big hit after The Matrix, and then he jumped into doing this, and it does have. It's not Matrixy, but it does have similar things going on in there. The way they did certain effects. I thought he was great. I like the idea that he was dying in the movie, and then they
Right. Yeah.
fix
Yeah.
that.
I'm vaguely
Yeah.
remembering.
the way they he won't stop smoking.
Yes.
There's a scene where they do like an exorcism in that movie, and it's great.
Right.
It really. It's one of those movies where it flies under the radar a lot, and you don't think people don't even think of it as a DC movie.
Yes.
But really, it is, and it really was solid. And Keanu is one of my favorite actors. So
Yeah.
I would like to see them actually do that sequel that they've been threatening us with.
Yeah. Yeah. Good choice. Believe it or not, my number 5 pick for is actually Wonder Woman, the first one.
Okay.
Because I feel, look, we all know with the second one, we know that's
Second
one
one's
of
a struggle.
one of the worst. I think it was on one of our right, our last
Yeah.
list. That was one of the
Yeah.
worst. Funny
I
how
think that was
worked.
our second worst. It came down between
Yeah.
I think Wonder Woman 1984 and
Yeah.
Doctor Strange
Yeah.
2, Multiverse of Madness.
But yeah, I like to say with this one is, it really shows you how when you have like a, because Patty Jenkins directed, and I think she co-wrote this with someone else.
with Zack Snyder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, so it's like one of those things where everything was firing off. Obviously, they had the nice balance between the script because everything in this movie. Because look, Gal Gadot is not a really great actress.
No, but somehow she made this work.
exactly. I think because she doesn't have as many lines as you think.
Yeah.
You know, and Chris Pine is awesome in this. I mean, that guy has such a lot of charisma too. Just surprised he hasn't become a superhero. You know, good looking.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, he was Captain Kirk.
Oh right. Like he could be like a Green Lantern type.
He could.
too. He's
Yeah.
got the whole physique and all that stuff. But in this movie, I love. She has like a small part, like Dr. Poison. She's like that
Yeah.
bitch who's like poisons people and shit.
Yeah.
I liked her. She was everything. But I all I can say is this movie. For me, it's probably one of the best female superheroes, if not the
Yeah.
best. You know, the action is great. We talked about the other one too, where when she's on the battlefield, like No Man's Land.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic. The ending is a little cheesy with that last end battle, dumb. But like I said, some spoilers here. When he dies, Chris Pine, I mean, that was great. If you really felt a no, and very, very admirable death. But this is truly a very good film. That's my number 5.
I have that in my honorable mentions. You're gonna hate my number 4.
Uh-oh.
I know you're gonna hate it, but I'm gonna say it anyway. My number 4 is Man of Steel. I there are parts of the movie that I agree with you with. I don't like what they did with Kevin Costner and that.
Yeah. But I feel like he does. I feel like Superman himself. He doesn't even want to be Superman. He's like dreading it. Like
that's not the most uncommon thing in Superman, though. That's the thing.
I know. I just feel like in the movie, just it doesn't work with the whole. I always say I don't. Whatever I always try to separate it because I understand you have to honor that, and I think the movie has to stand on its own to a degree. I just feel like that.
I think this movie totally
is,
does. I love this movie. I think my favorite scene in that movie, well, not my favorite scene, but one of my favorite scenes in that movie is before he's Superman, and he's just kind of like in the comic books, Superman does travel the world before he's Superman, and he saves people
right
without being a hero. And they show that in the movie. He works on the boat.
Oh yeah.
And like all
that stuff is.
I thought that was a very good way because that's what he did. Like he was saving people in secret.
I think the movie starts good, and then
I like when he's in the bar and that guy's a real dick.
And he
crushes the.
Yeah, I like all.
I thought that was
I'll say
great.
the first quarter of that film I like, and then after that it just.
And I thought Michael Shannon is Zod.
Oh, I love that guy
great.
as an actor.
And when they're in Krypton, I like the Krypton not being an icicle planet again. I like that we did something different. I like that scene with Zod when he's yelling at Jor-El.
The first quarter,
I will find him.
Yeah,
that whole scene
he's an
is
intense
great.
actor, man.
He's great.
Every movie he's in, he's awesome.
I thought that was good. I like the way. I like the plot of what they were trying to do as the villains, and they're terraforming it to make like a new. There were parts of the movie, like I said, the Kevin Costner stuff does not work. The whole idea of like they have to find what they call it, the coda or the codex or whatever.
Oh yeah, I don't like that.
That doesn't necessarily work. I understand they were trying to give a reason.
Yeah.
That maybe didn't work as well as it should, but overall, I like that it wasn't Lex Luthor in the first movie again.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill looks like Superman.
He's great.
He's a great Superman. And I know that you don't like that movie, but for me, it is certainly in the top 5 of DC's best movies. I mean, it looks fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Zack Snyder always makes great looking films. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's going to come back on my list, Zack Snyder, again with another one of his movies.
Yeah. I don't like it, PJ, but I respect it. I understand it. For my number 4, I put Joker, the 2019 with Joaquin Phoenix.
Okay.
I put this in there because I think it's a really goddamn good film. It is. Obviously, it's inspired by Taxi Driver, King of Comedy. And I don't know what else to say. It's just a very interesting film. What they did with it.
Yeah, no, I
don't really have too much to say. It's I knew within like the first 5 minutes, I'm like, this is gonna be good. The only negative of the film I don't really like at all. The whole thing was like they didn't have to show you it. We already knew the girlfriend was always in his mind. That part was like almost off-putting. I'm like, But
I know they wanted to show how crazy he was.
Yeah.
One of the things I love the most about that movie is when he gives the card to people that shows.
Oh yeah.
I think that's great. Yeah.
But yeah, that movie gets almost like horror-esque at certain points when like he's killing
like
guys
a real
on the train.
psychological thriller. Really.
Yes, exactly. And really interesting. And I know you and I are a little weary about the sequel. But I don't have much to say about that, folks. It's a really great film.
I think one of the best parts of that movie is is when he's on the talk show.
Oh yeah.
That whole scene is.
Yeah. I mean, totally intense. So, and I think too, just to wrap things up, what I really liked about the film too was like, how's this gonna end? You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't know where it was gonna go, and I was happy how it ended.
Yeah.
Because like, you see, they can either, you knew Batman was gonna come out of the. They knew that wasn't okay. So I'm like, okay, how are they gonna end this? Was he gonna get shot to death or some shit or whatever?
I also feel like if they wanted to continue this, you could find out that he's not actually the Joker that Batman. Because we see Bruce as a kid.
Yeah.
So he really could be inspiring a line of Jokers.
Yes, I agree.
That just follow his lead, which I thought might have been what the sequel would be.
Yeah.
Be someone else like following his craziness and like like a copycat or whatever.
Exactly.
And they could still go that route maybe in the future if they wanted to. Because it's clearly not Batman's Joker if Batman is still a kid.
Agreed. But really good film. PJ, what's your number? Are you at the? Are you
3.
Right. I'm sorry.
Number 3 is The Watchmen.
That's on my honorable mentions, but I agree. It's a very good film.
The Watchmen is. I mean, it's fantastic. I thought long and hard about maybe making this my number 1. Because if you've ever read the comic book, up until the end, in the comic book, like they drop like an alien squid on it. Like it works in a comic book just fine.
I don't think it would have worked.
It would not have.
I don't know why
worked
people make such a big deal about that.
Yeah, it would not have worked in the movie. I don't think it would have. I think people would have been like, "What?" Like, because they build a very realistic movie in this, and they stay so true. Like there are scenes and lines. Like you put the comic up to the screen.
Yeah,
it's the same. It was very, very true to what that book was. In a comic book, you can get away with a fake alien invasion when you drop squids. In a movie, you're like, I don't know. This will be goofy.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good change. The actors in that, the guy who does Rorschach, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, talk about just perfect. The comedian, I mean, that whole movie is just like...
I like that movie a lot.
It's for me, it's one of like the most
I don't know why people,
accurate representations of a comic book on screen. Really,
I think Zack Snyder does best in those kind of films.
Yeah.
Like, the reason I don't like... Because that movie's just about deconstructing superheroes, where I think he was trying to do that with Superman and Man of Steel. But
he was, but that's okay, because if we would have followed through with his vision, it wouldn't have ended that way. We just didn't get to see it.
Right. Well, but I agree. Watchmen is great. I love the music in that film.
Oh, yeah, the music is great.
The costumes I like a lot. I mean, what was it? Miss Jupiter, and the other one. Whew.
Yeah.
Smoke shows.
Yeah.
Can't think of his name. The guy who plays the comedian. He plays the guy in.
He's I can't think of his name either, but he's Negan from.
Yes,
Walking
that's
Dead.
his name.
Yeah,
I couldn't think, Walking Dead. But he plays like a real. Oh man, you like hate him,
but you love him.
He's like a real like I love Dr. Manhattan. Him turning into Dr. Manhattan was a great scene.
Oh yeah, when he's in that that box.
Oh, so good. That's a great choice, PJ.
When they're on the stuff on Mars and stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like about that movie, and the comic book too, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it is something that I think is great, is the way that with Dr. Manhattan, how time isn't linear.
Yes.
And how he's simultaneously turning in to Dr. Manhattan at the same time that he's on Mars, at the same time as he's somewhere else.
Yeah.
He's just living all of it at once. I think it's a brilliant concept.
Yeah.
And I think the movie does a good job of showing how it works.
Yeah. No, I agree. And real quick, I think Zack Snyder's best film is 300, and then this one and Watchmen. For my number 3, PJ, I know you don't love this trilogy. I'm grouping them all in. Is the Dark Knight trilogy.
I knew it was going to be on there.
Yep, number 3. Because I'll say this because I love Christian Bale. I know his voice, blah blah blah, blah whatever. That was Christopher Nolan's direction. But other than that, I really love all these films. And one of the things I don't really get, because look, people always say they like it because it's dark and gritty. I want to say I actually don't really find those films dark and gritty. I actually find the Batman dark and gritty.
Yes.
I find Batman vs. Superman dark and gritty. I really don't actually find this movie dark. I don't know where people came up with this whole thing.
I don't find it dark and gritty either.
I don't know where they come up with that. I think it's more...
it's set in a more realistic setting.
It's totally inspired the movie by Heat, by Michael Mann.
But I wouldn't necessarily call it dark and gritty either.
And I also find it not as, like, people say it's, like, humorous. Actually, I think there's a lot more humor than people realize. Where, like, in the first one, he goes, like... Commissioner Gordon goes like, "Oh, I gotta get a car like that, whatever the hell it is."
Right.
And like, I think in the second one, when he's with Morgan Freeman, and he's like, "Oh, you mean like a submarine?" He's looking for the bat and like, or what's his name, Scarecrow? I think in the second one too. He's like, "Not my diagnosis." So he's saying like, "Oh, you're crazy," or whatever the heck it is.
I think Michael Caine is probably the best Alfred.
Oh yeah,
he's great.
Yeah, he has the most dimension. Has a lot of heart. Yeah, he feels very useful. Where like the first one with 89, he feels kind of just fatherly, not
Although
as useful.
don't get me wrong, not to shit on that guy. I love that guy too.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's never been a bad Alfred. Because even Jeremy Irons in the role that they gave him wasn't bad either. There's never been a bad Alfred.
Yeah. I agree with that. But yeah, I like to say with the Christopher Nolan, they're not as dark as people say. I really like how Christian Bale plays Bruce Wayne, actually. And I like all the villains. I like Scarecrow, I like Ra's al Ghul, I like the Joker, I like Bane, I like Catwoman, I like them all.
I disagree with that, but I respect your choice to pick it.
And I was going to say, I think this movie, without this movie, you wouldn't have gotten the cinematic universe. Because they all said, because if Batman Begins, it's like the first one that really had like an origin story. I don't really have like an origin story, but this one really focused on it.
Man, whoever is calling right now is really trying to get through, but we're not open. The store doesn't open until 12. And number two? I think
we're on. Yeah, you might be on number 2.
Yeah. Okay. Batman 89.
Wow. Okay, that's actually my number 1. But
okay. I think. How much can we say about it? We've had episodes about this. It's the best Batman movie. It's the best Batman movie. It's always going to be the best Batman movie. It's never not going to be. So you have to have it on the list. 1 and 2 is. I mean,
I put
my number
2 in
1
there.
is probably.
I put 1 and 2 in there. It's together.
Yeah. I think those are. I mean, Batman Returns is also great. Michael Keaton's great. I mean, what else can I say about it? It's fantastic, and everyone loves it for a reason.
Yep. I said this is my number 1 pick. I chose this one. I think Paul, PJ, and I both had the both number 1 and 2 picks. They're interchangeable, really. But for Batman 89, love Michael Keaton as Batman and as Bruce Wayne. Love the Batmobile. Whew.
The best Batmobile.
Love the theme song. The soundtrack. I mean, iconic. The whole film is iconic. And I'll say this just to wrap things up with it. To this day, everyone's trying to capture this magic of this film. Whether it's the tone, the music, the costumes, the whole shebang. This movie has that thing where you just can't.
You can't.
Batman Returns doesn't even capture
it. No.
This movie, everyone's still trying to capture this movie's mojo, magic, specialness. So, to this day, it's still it's influencing obviously the animated series.
Everything.
It still impacts
like
all.
If there's only one thing that changed in that movie, it's the fact that he can't move his head.
Right.
That's really it.
Yeah.
I think otherwise it's just great. I mean, I think we could have done a better casting with Commissioner Gordon.
Really?
Yeah, that guy didn't really feel like Commissioner Gordon.
Right.
But like that's a complaint of the movie. How great is the movie? That's why I'm saying that. Like these are the smallest nitpicks.
Right.
To find something not great about that movie, then you know it's good.
Yep. And PJ, I'm assuming my number 2 pick is your number 1 pick. Is
Superman the movie?
Superman the movie, 1978. Richard Donner.
Yep. Which is another one of those movies where like that you're chasing. Everyone is chasing, trying to. Out of all the movies on this list,
right,
and there are good movies on both sides that we picked, I don't think any of them have as much heart as that Christopher Reeve movie does.
I'll agree with that. Heart, yeah. Like I said, 89 has a special mojo, and this one has a special mojo, and I agree. I wrote when this one is like, this just has like a classic movie feel.
Yes.
Like something about it has, like maybe it was like the 78, so maybe it's the turning of the tide of like. Movies starting to get a little bit more modern. I think 80s movies start to get a little bit more modern in terms of technology and camera use.
This has like that timeless, like Casablanca feel to it, right?
Yes.
Where you just like Superman the movie. To me, it's a superhero movie, but it's also not.
Yes.
All these other movies are superhero.
Almost like a Jimmy Stewart kind of feel, like A Wonderful Life kind of.
Like it's just bigger than all these other ones. Like I think these other movies are comic book movies, all of them. Even Batman '89, it's a Superman the movie isn't. Yeah. It is, but it isn't.
It is. I know what you mean. It has like has that special thing that they've been trying to capture.
And they just can't, and you never will. And that thing is Christopher Reeve. Like that's.
I was gonna say for him,
what it is.
He plays. I think honestly the best Clark Kent ever.
100%.
And and I love his Superman. I think Henry Cavill's really. I think Dean Kane's really great.
There haven't been too many terrible Supermen, to be honest.
That's true. I agree with that.
When it comes to like recasting characters, because even Brandon Routh was doing a Christopher Reeve impression in that movie.
And
he was fine. They redeemed him on the CW. He had a great he came back as Superman in the CW shows, like an Arrow and the Flash. They did a Crisis on Infinite Earths, and he came back as an older Superman and basically showed, you know what, I am a good Superman, and so deal with it.
Right.
But even like Tom Welling on Smallville, was a great actor, great choice. But yeah, no one is Christopher Reeve. While there's never been a bad Superman, there's only one great Superman.
Yes.
And, I mean, there are scenes in that movie, and you just watch it, and you're blown away. Like, the tagline was, "You'll believe a man can fly." This is a guy where there are no effects.
Yes.
And it doesn't look like he's flying, but you'll believe a man can fly. They got it right. The score for that movie, the John Williams score.
Oh, my God. I mean,
is there a more perfect musical score?
I think that theme and the Batman theme, best
ever
superhero themes of all time, and maybe the Avengers theme I would put up there. Those three, but those two
and
definitely
even, like,
1 and 2
Gene
spots.
Hackman,
yes,
as Luthor was a great,
like slimy, like
and so many memorable lines that people don't even think about when he's just like, it should give you a shudder of electricity just to be in the same room as me. From Lex Luthor, that's a great one. The Daily Planet stuff is also great. Doesn't get people don't talk about that, but I forget who it was that played Perry White. I can't think of his name, but he's like, there's a lot of really good stuff in those scenes too. And then you can even kind of put it together with Superman 2 when they have Terrence Stamp is on. You know, the whole, "Excuse me, General, would you care to step outside?" Like, that whole thing. Like, there's something about the delivery of Christopher Reeve that... I mean, he's great.
And other things that make this movie special is I always loved the Fortress of Solitude. It looked like peaceful.
Yeah.
You know? I just love that. As a kid, it's always like, oh, wow. I remember you could be there was a toy you can get that play set.
Marlon Brando as Jor-El was...
Yep. You know. I always liked how they did that. You know, like, to this day, I still haven't nailed that whole thing with that, you know, Jor-El and all that stuff. And I don't know what to say. This movie just has that special feel.
Absolutely,
and
it does.
I think people also forget two things from this film. The classic beauty, you know, the Lois Lane, damsel in distress. And you don't really get that anymore. I think the last movie that actually had that was like Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire had that. You don't have that. It's almost like maybe it's not, I don't know, politically correct.
Yeah, it's not woke enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you shouldn't need a man to save you.
Yeah. But
there is a bit of that.
I miss that. It makes it, hey, these are superheroes. You know, that's kind of one thing.
I mean, it's goofy to watch it now. But when he flies around the earth,
but people forget about that one.
Yeah.
People forget that's in the first one.
Yeah.
I think they get mixed up with the other ones. I think they think of when he fights Zod and the whole
he
thing
throws
up
the
there.
plastic wrap at him. It's an odd choice.
But this movie is special. And I just real quick, just side note, Richard Donner. I didn't know this. For some reason I thought he directed Lethal Weapons. Mm-hmm. He did The Toy. Mm-hmm. He did Radio Flyer.
Yep.
And I did not realize he directed this film. That's why I got mixed up before. I thought it was Chris Columbus, The Goonies.
He did The Goonies.
I thought Chris Columbus directed it, but I think Chris Columbus wrote it, and then Donner directed it. I didn't know that. Just wanted to point that out to folks. But yeah, great.
Interesting fact about that movie. Richard Donner had an assistant throughout his career. Jeff Johns, who went on to become a comic book writer and has written some of the best Superman stories. And some of it is actually based on that version of Superman. Huh. Like he based a lot of his writing, the way he interprets the character from those movies, and has written some of the best Superman comic books. And it's like, because you got the vision from the guy who put the best version of Superman out there. Yeah. For me, I know we have to pick our top 5 of
both
all
lists.
Of them, and for me, I'd be hard pressed to pick a different number 1 than that. But we'll go through and see where we land.
Yep. So, folks, we're going to do a combined list.
Yeah.
We did our last episode with the worst. Yep. We take the best of both worlds and make one monster, fantastic episode. So, PJ, we have fun. Let me just write this down.
So we'll start from number 5, right?
Right. Well, actually, maybe we work our way.
Make our way down.
Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe 1. We'll all agree. Superman.
Superman, I think. For me, I don't think I could pick a better one.
And I got then number 2. I can put 8-9 Batman.
I agree with that as well. Okay, so this is
okay.
All right.
So I want to, if it's okay, maybe let's look at the Marvels, our Marvel picks.
Okay.
So, what was your number 1 pick?
My number 1 pick was Iron Man.
Okay, I think I will put that on there. Okay, so I'm not. We'll put on the list. We'll figure out.
We know that Iron Man's gonna.
All right. And I want to put Spider-Man 1 on there too. Is that all right?
I could be okay with that one. Yeah.
So. And now we got to figure out
The last one.
the last one out of all these choices.
Oh boy.
To tell you the truth, I wouldn't put any of my rest of my Marvel picks on there.
I don't know that I'm putting the rest of my. What do I have?
Because if I
I
was
mean,
gonna,
Doctor Strange is not in the top 5 superhero
Yeah.
movies of all time. Neither is The Punisher.
yeah,
Neither
like,
is Spider-Man. Yeah, I don't know.
like I don't like. For me, I would put either sorry.
I mean, our choices are limited.
Like I could. Well, let's just before we get to number 5, where are we gonna put Spider-Man and Iron Man? 3 or 4? Either one.
I think I would do Iron. In my opinion, Iron Man is 3 and Spider-Man is 4. But if you wanted to reverse them,
I might just say
Okay.
Spider-Man only because I think he has a better villain than the first one.
that's fair.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's the one with Tobey Maguire,
Yeah.
and then Iron Man. Okay, all right. So at number 5, me and PJ are really
Ooh.
we're at a tough spot here.
I'm almost inclined to say Watchmen.
I know what you mean. Because a part of me is like, I'm kind of caught between these. PJ, hear me out, PJ.
Okay.
I'm thinking either Infinity War, Logan. I'll say the Dark Knight, and then maybe Joker. I know I picked up a couple right there. I mean, all these movies are great.
So, my thing with. All right. So my thing with Infinity War. While I think it's great,
right.
when we're talking about the best of all time, that movie can only happen if 47 other movies happen.
Okay.
You know what I
gotcha.
mean?
I got you.
So if we
Agreed.
didn't see any of those,
Right.
it's only great
All right,
because
so
of what came before.
Let me cross this out.
That's just how I look at that.
Right. Okay. Logan. You know what? Even that's a great film. It's not. It's definitely one of the best ever.
Yeah,
no question. But
But
top
again,
5.
that's another one where it can only happen because a bunch of other movies happen first.
Right.
All right. And my problem, look, taking aside the fact that I don't like the Nolan movies, we have a Batman movie on the list.
I
and
know.
It's just not as good as that.
I think PJ. I think you're right in terms of just.
It could be
Beside-
Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
It could be Wonder Woman.
Okay. I agree, PJ. I mean, look, folks, this isn't, all these are interchangeable, but in terms of top 5, PJ, I think I'm going to go with Watchmen.
Yeah?
I think so. Because the reason I'm going to put over the Christopher Nolan films or the other ones is it's its own thing,
Right.
and it has its place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has its place, and I think it deserves a place.
All right.
I think that might work.
I mean, from my list, from both left, I don't have anything else to pick from other than Watchmen on my list. So on your, I just don't. On your list, we did have Wonder Woman that we have to
like for me,
debate,
I can
and then-
live with like Wonder Woman, The Dark Knight, and then Watchmen is like 5.
Yeah, I think
to
Watchmen might be maybe that's the one.
Like I said, for me, you can put any of those films I just
Yeah.
named. I'm just putting Watchmen there,
All
just
right, we'll
in
go
terms
with
of
Watchmen.
variety, and I
Yeah.
think it deserves it. But that top 4 though was slamming.
That top 4 is solid. Yeah, the top 4 is definitely solid.
Putting your number 5 is always hard in any
Yeah.
list. But yeah, folks, so let me just read it out loud. So our number 5 is Watchmen. Number 4 is Iron Man 1. Number 3 is Spider-Man 1. Number 2 is Batman 89. And number 1 is Superman 1978. So definitely a banging
It's kind
list.
of funny because people always say how better the Marvel movies are and then the DC films. And I think on our worst 5 list, we had more Marvel movies. And
Yeah.
our top 5 list, we had more DC
Yeah,
movies.
yeah.
Although none of the DC movies we picked are modern.
Yeah,
Because
they're-
it's like they forgot how to make movies.
Exactly.
They made the best 2 superhero movies of all time and forgot what they were doing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Sadly. But yeah. I mean, folks, all these movies we mentioned today are definitely
all
worth.
great.
They're all worth watching, and you can, let us know what you think is your top 5. But yeah, PJ, anything else? Anything else?
I don't think I got anything else to add.
Oh, actually, did I do my?
You have something else to add?
I do. I think I just want to make sure. Did I talk about my honorable mentions for DC?
I'm not sure.
I don't think I did. So, folks. Oh my God, where the fuck is it?
Well, I'll give you one of my honorable mentions
Yes, thank you, BJ.
for DC while you're looking. Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey.
I never saw it.
It's terrible. I'm just fucking with you.
Oh. was gonna say that was on my. I saw like 10 minutes. I had to turn it off.
It's awful.
But I found
my honorable mention is The Suicide Squad, the second one.
That's what I had.
The
second one.
Yes.
Yep, I had that. I actually had Batman Forever. I
like that movie.
I think it's people pick on it a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I understand Riddler or a little wacky,
but
still good.
Yeah.
Still fun. That's all I had.
I have one other honorable mention.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Batman 66 movie.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would agree with that.
I love that movie. It's never going to be a top 5 movie.
Right.
But it's so fun and so nostalgic.
Right. And actually, PJ, I have a question because I'm not sure because I think this should be, at least in the realm of just best come movies of all time. Sin City who was that? Is that independent?
It was Sin City was not DC or Marvel. I forget offhand.
Okay, because I think that movie's awesome. I would put that like in a. I think that should be our number top 5. That was a Marvel.
Hold on, I'll let you know who made Sin City.
Or like a Dark Horse,
Yeah, it was definitely. It was definitely not DC or Marvel, but I'll let you know right now. Sin City was made by. It might have just been. Let's see, Dark Horse. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Dark Horse.
Okay, I would put that if that was one of the. I would put that as number 5.
Maybe what we'll do is another episode of top 5 non-DC Marvel movies. We might do that.
Yeah,
because there are a bunch of non-DC Marvel movies that are comic book movies that are still great.
Yeah,
like Ninja Turtles. I mean,
yes, touche.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe we'll do another one of these.
Yep,
we'll do another one of these.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, folks, thanks for listening. Same time, same table.
Have a good one.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. For more information, visit their website at coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. Follow the boys on all social media platforms. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.